Good morning, family. There's a commonality going on amongst professed believers right now, referred to as deconstructing their faith. And the outcome of a lot of this deconstructing of their faith results in, I don't believe anymore in Christianity, and that there's not just one way to God, but multiple ways to God. All these religions point out the same things and similar things, and there must be a reason, and that reason, because I've done my due diligence and my research, that it's because they must all be right in their own way. So each person follows their own path to God, on the other side of life, of this life. Now the problem with that is it's a reverse of the way God laid out his story or history. Now remember that at the fall with Adam and Eve, you had Adam and Eve's eyes opened, and they realized, for example, that they were naked, and they became ashamed through the awareness of their nakedness. They saw it from a different perspective than from the good that it was created in by God. Remember that the serpent specifically told Eve that when you eat of this fruit, your eyes will be opened and you will be like gods. So once they did that, their innocence was stolen. They gave it up and it was taken. Imagine having our own child and at a young age realizing that a portion of their innocence, if not a large majority of their innocence, was gone already before it needed to be. In other words, they were aware of sexuality. They were aware of all these things that because of the age had no place or bearing in their life in the moment. This is similar to what happened to mankind, God's creation at the fall in the garden. Their innocence was compromised by their decision to eat of the fruit of knowledge and evil, of knowledge of good and evil. And so when that happened, what would you do as a parent? You would correct, you would teach, you would allow them to continue to stumble as much as you could as a parent and teach them along the way. You wouldn't just boom, 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 because we know that we have done that in our own families and own lives, and there's been huge negative consequences of trying to force the understanding, force the proper truth on our children that have been rebellious. There's a reason why God gives us the story of the prodigal son, and there's multiple facets to that, as all the stories that God gave us, as far as like application points. But the root of it is that this is a story of God's creation for us to be in a familial relationship with him as his children. His children rebelled in the beginning through deception, and God is teaching and rearing and raising us as adopted children now. And so with that said, when we look at these religions throughout the world that people are deconstructing their faith regarding, and coming to the conclusion that all these religions lead to the same place, that same relationship with God, we have to take a pause. And we have to realize that only one quote-unquote religion or one quote-unquote belief takes all of those partial truths from those multiple religions in the world, all those other beliefs in the world, and shows us the way, the one way. Mankind or creation latch on to rules, latch on to laws, latch on to direction. We want to be able to say, do this way and you will have this outcome. And so God, knowing this because he's our creator and our father, he brought all of that deception and confusion that was a result of the fall, result of the tower, result of all these different things that mankind, in conjunction with fallen angels and so forth, adulterated, and brings that to the culmination of himself, his son on the cross, and brings all those partial truths together to the way, the truth, and the life, being Jesus Christ, the only way to the Father. And so that we have that absolute direction of being in relationship with God now, in relationship with others. He made it simple so that we weren't so easily deceived. Now, think about Luke chapter 21. A common argument in regarding these verses in Luke chapter 21 specifically and surrounding them is that they were for the Jews and still are for the Jews, whether it's future or currently, but it's for the Jewish people. My question to that is in Luke 21:12, Christ tells these people that are following him, okay? And remember, the people that are following him consist of two types of people. People that believe him and people that are intrigued and interested in following. But they're not trusting or believing him yet. Remember, God knew that ultimately he was going to shift his focus to the Gentile nations, but he was there for the lost sheep of Israel. He was there for the people of Israel. But he knew his ultimate plan here. But when you read Luke chapter 21, verse 12, he tells them that you will be persecuted for my name's sake, for him, Jesus Christ. Now, we know that ultimately, currently, in the 21st century with the Jewish nation, the Jewish people as a whole, or the Israelite people as a whole, they don't trust and believe in Jesus Christ. The remnant does, which is the bride, the betrothed bride, the church, who now we know on this side of the cross consists of those that Christ brought into that fold from prior to the cross, but it consists of this remnant, not the entirety of a nation, but the people that trust and believe in Jesus Christ. And so Jesus Christ in Luke 21:12 says that you will be persecuted for my name's sake, for Jesus' name's sake. That means for your belief, for your trust, for your faith. That can't be speaking directly to a Jewish nation that doesn't fully believe. He is speaking to the people within those followers that believe and those that will believe, including on this side of the cross in the Gentile nations. We will be persecuted prior to the coming of the Son of Man, prior to the heavens being shaken, prior to war in heaven, prior to seeing the Son of Man on the clouds in his glory. We will be persecuted. Okay? Another thing, continue to read in Luke 21. We want to debate about drunkenness and it being a sin of continual sin and this, that, and the other. Mankind has vices. Mankind is weak. We are told further in Luke 21 that be watchful. Do not fall to drunkenness, carousing. In other words, being hung over or stooped over, from being drunken. Do not allow your mind to be dulled. And the reason is because if you do that, you will not see these things happening. You will not see the world, the earth, the creation coming closer and closer to receiving the Son of Man in the clouds in his glory. It will come upon us as a thief. We are commanded as his children, his adopted children, as his people to be watchful. Throughout Revelation, throughout prophecy, we are told to be watchful. That is why we're told to not be in drunkenness, so that our minds are not dulled. We do not want to be caught up with the cares of this world. Remember, Jesus, in Luke 22, I believe, Jesus tells Peter that the Satan wanted to sift him as wheat. Okay? Remember the story of Job. God Almighty allowed Satan to tempt Job to the point he lost everything except his wife, his own flesh, his body, his wife, his bride. He allowed Satan to sift Job. God Almighty, Jesus Christ, told Peter, Satan desires to sift you. You will deny me 3 times. Then you see this take place. Then Peter realizes Christ God foretold Satan sifting him like wheat.